Okay, everybody, here we go. It's still me, Greg Mannarino, Monday, January 30th, 2023, post-market wrap-up. Let me just say this before I get going here. I really enjoy doing those live streams with all of you. Being able to directly interact with you live is phenomenal. I wish I would have got that going a while back. You know, I did try it a couple of years ago. I don't know why I stopped. It's just maybe I didn't have the time. Anyway, time is always a factor, but I do enjoy it now. I look forward to doing it, and I'll see you all tomorrow as well. Anyway, look, let's talk about this. There is some serious stuff going on here, but before we get to that, let's just touch on this market real quick. We had some pressure on stocks today. Energy, I think you and I expected to see this. We're getting a pullback here. In my opinion, and this is just my opinion here, and I would love to hear from you people who are into energy and, follow this stuff. I think we're due. I hate to use that term. I hate it. But I think we're due for this pullback here. I think this is bullish here. At least if things stay the way they are. A couple of things going on here. Again, not just with energy, but a whole bunch of other stuff here. We had commodities in aggregate today, for the most part, under some pressure. This is something else I don't think is too surprising because of the recent run-up here. Even this market itself, this January has been one, honestly, almost for the record books. And this is just easy money. The economy continues to free fall faster, as a matter of fact. So not only did we find out this morning that investment in industry here in the United States and factories is at an all-time low. Factory activity itself has now fallen for 9 consecutive months, but it's accelerating that fall. What would pick up industrial production? More war. And maybe even more fear, too, because we heard from the World Health Organization today. Did you see this one out here? The World Health Organization, where did I write this down here? Is telling governments around the world to stockpile medications that would be used for a possible nuclear war. You heard that right. Nuclear war. They're telling governments to stockpile medications and prepare for nuclear war. Look, fear, real or perceived, is the most powerful weapon utilized against an unsuspecting public here. Even probably the slightest mention of having to stockpile anything for a supposed upcoming nuclear war could cause people to go berserk. Who knows, run to the stores, clean them out. You can only imagine where this is going to go, but that's what we got here. Look, the distractions, the deceptions, the propaganda, the look here's and the look there, it's all going to manifest itself to a much greater degree and be utilized to a much greater degree moving forward. It's out of control. Now, just touching back on this market real quick because I got sidetracked. So yes, some pressure on the stock market. Energy is a big drag here. You know that crude oil has to play. Crude oil has to play. It's the lifeblood of the military-industrial complex here. So energy goes down. It's going to pull the market down. There was some fear here. We got some strength in the dollar on a relative basis. The 10-year yield came up. What does that mean? Bonds are selling off a little bit here. Okay. You got the MMRI about 225. It's not, look, it's still in a very high risk zone here. Beyond 300 is extreme risk. So, yeah, the risk is very, very, very high here in this market. But again, I don't believe central banks are done. I have a whole thing I want to read to you in a little bit. I think there's a lot more up their sleeve, what they're going to pull off. And part of that is this. So we heard from Janet Yellen today, the thing, the troll, the gnome, whatever it is. I swear, whenever I look at it, I don't know. Something happens up here. It's just doesn't connect properly. Anyway, so this is what it said, is the U.S. Treasury is increasing its borrowing estimate moving forward, meaning, of course, look, the United States, in case you don't already know, is already in a technical default with regard to its debt. Okay, debts and deficits continue to balloon. Where does all this cash come from to fill the gaps? I'm going to give you one guess. It comes right out of the Federal Reserve, all off balance sheet. You don't get to see this stuff as central banks continue to inflate. Sure, go to the Fed's website. Look at their balance sheet. Looks great, coming down. Look at the money supply. Oh yeah, coming down too, according to what they're saying. But let's see the other balance sheet. Let's see the real balance sheet, the one, we're not allowed to look at. No one can even look at. Even brain dead, mummified presidents can't look at them, even though, it wouldn't make any difference. The guy can't walk and chew gum at the same time. It's insane. Anyway, are you shocked that now the U.S. Treasury has to increase its borrowing estimate moving forward? Oh, I don't think you are at all. I don't think you are at all, people. So here's something else that plays right into what you and I already know, and we knew about this, but we're seeing, and we spoke about this a lot, loan defaults on the rise. So the big headline from the Wall Street Journal, brace for more consumer loan defaults. Oh, really? You mean the consumer's being crushed to death by a central bank who's going out of its way to charge more for the debt they issue? Imagine my shock here. Imagine my shock. Instead of, let's just put that into perspective because it plays into what I want to read to you. Instead of here, let's say, central banks around the world saying, you know what we need to do? We need to contract the money supply so we could actually control inflation, because that's the root cause of inflation, and inflated money supply. Let's keep inflating the money supply, but we're going to charge more for the debt that we issue. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to become wealthier than we've ever been before. You know how this works, people. It's absolutely a sick, twisted freaking scheme. Right down into the pit of hell. Cryptocurrency is under pressure today. Gold and silver relatively flat today. I think the real player here was energy, and crude, which took a pretty big hit. Now, I want to read this to you. Virtually every week, I put together something like this for all of you, and I want you to have it, okay? If you do subscribe to my free newsletter, free to everyone on this planet, there is a link in the description of this video, and you'll have this in your inbox. Every week, I put a lot of stuff out. I want to read this to you, and I'm going to kind of ad-lib to this as we go along. Some of this is going to be very familiar to some of you. Some of it won't, especially if you're new here. And so I want you to pay attention to this. So the title, Central Banks Have Declared War on the World. Really war against the people of the world, okay? They want to own the world, and it's working. Their scheme that they put together over a century ago to at one point be the lenders and buyers of last resort, to have a world and its nations and its citizens slaves to their system. And that's exactly what we have today. The debt-based economic model, people, is a curse upon this world. It is a curse upon this world like you cannot possibly believe. Anyway, so again, central banks have declared war on the world. Actually, it's people by me. Today, world central banks are at the pinnacle of their power. They are the puppet masters. They make the rules and they run the entire world. Anything else to the contrary is fluff. Presidents, brain dead ones, or ones with bad complexions, members of Congress, or it's just I can't say that word anymore. It's just a nonsensical freak show on the side. Anyway, central banks, I want you to think about this. Think about this. Don't just let it, fly over your head. Central banks have total control over the entire world financial system, modes of transactions, the world economy, and world markets. All central banks' power resides in just one thing. What is it? What is it? You know what it is, because I've told you a million times. And that one thing is their ability to issue and manipulate debt. That's all. Central bank's product, one thing, debt, period. Central banks use the global debt market itself, which I speak about every freaking day, which is many multiples larger than the combined value of all world stock markets, to set the price of other assets. Did you hear what I said? In fact, the price action of every other asset class, you know this already, which includes stocks and real estate, are dictated by the price action of the debt market. I've said right out that the stock market itself, real estate, and pretty much everything else derives value from the debt market. So what does that mean? These are derivatives. Everything becomes a derivative because it derives value from action in the debt market. And the debt market itself is another entity that if people really could get their head around it, I think their heads would explode. I'll be honest with you, really. Anyway, the debt market consists of, I'm going to explain this to you in very, very simple terms of what the debt market actually does, okay? The debt market consists of the issuance and purchase of debt instruments like bonds, for example, which pay a fixed amount to the buyer. I think most of us actually know that. The simplest way to think about the debt market is this. It's a market of IOUs. That's all it is. The seller of the debt promises to pay a fixed amount on that debt to the buyer at some time in the future. Okay, that's basically how these things work. In the case of central banks, it's nations which borrow or who borrow and then promise to pay back the debt issued by that central bank plus interest created out of thin air, just like the debt itself. You understand? Let's move forward here. No developed nation on earth can function without ever increasing and expanding debt. So this goes back to the Federal Reserve's balance sheet. They want you to believe. Think about what I'm going to tell you. You can see this right on the Fed's website. They want you to believe that the money supply is contracting. Meanwhile, the whole system cannot function without more debt being added to it every freaking second of every freaking day. You have all the fun you want, because a lot of you write to me about, oh, Greg, look at the Fed's balance sheet shrinking. Greg, look at the money supply M2. It's dropping. Duh. Really? You go play with yourself in front of that thing, because that's all you're doing. You know, it's mental freaking masturbation. It's not true. Anyway, so no developed nation on earth can function without ever increasing and expanding debt, for which central banks are more than happy to lend. Henceforth, why the gnome troll thing, Yellenstein, saying, hey, guess what, people? We got to borrow more. Okay, imagine my shock here. This entire mechanism is compounded by central banks issuing currency. Currency issued by any central bank. Currency issued by a central bank are also IOUs, which are owned by the issuing central bank. You know this, and owed back to the issuing central bank plus interest they create out of thin air. The cash you and I and anybody holds in their wallets, bank accounts, etc., it's not yours. It's not ours. It's theirs, and we owe it back to them. Imagine who created this system. I tell you, like I said, the debt-based economic model is a curse upon the world. A curse upon the world. And that cash must be paid back to the central bank plus interest. Today, more than any other time in history, the entire debt-based economic system has been fully weaponized. I think you would have to agree with me on that. As an example, today, central banks are on a supposed mission to stop inflation, but instead of contracting the money supply, something which can easily be done by central banks, which only have to just raise the capital requirements of financial institutions. I think we're well aware of that. Central banks have decided to charge more for the debt which they issue. Where's the uproar? Where's our loving, caring representatives? Really? Oh, how does that work? Well, that's what's going on here. They decided to charge more for the interest on the debt that they issue. And this mechanism is meant to simply slow demand by crushing the consumer. It's certainly working. They have you and me and the consumers by the freaking throat. What 99% of the people, and I hope this is not you, do not understand is inflation is a money supply issue and not just a rate problem. But central banks have chosen to charge more for the debt they issue instead of hitting the root cause of inflation, which is an expanding money supply. Can I get a duh here? Thank you. Central banks have no intention at all to stop inflating the money supply. You should be aware of this, as this is a key component as to how they gain power. The more a central bank can inflate, the stronger it becomes. I'm almost done here. Central banks are seeking more ways to inflate, and that issue is more debt. As an example, the expansion and propagation of war, exactly what we're seeing now, nuclear war, whatever, any kind of war, they got to, look, if they got to eliminate you and me They're going to do it. They're going to do it anyway. We are in a world depopulation event, and it's about to accelerate. Just in case you don't know that, that's not here. Anyway, as an example, expansion and propagation of war. No other endeavor on earth generates more the need for capital than war. Do you think that there is a single developed nation on earth, really, which keeps a stash of cash somewhere just to fight some future upcoming war? Absolutely not. We don't keep anything like that. All the cash to fight wars is again borrowed directly from central banks. All wars are bank wars. Disease processes have also been weaponized in the form of not just the disease itself, but the need to fund vaccines, drugs, and new facilities, astronomical amounts of cash, people. All of this is just a mechanism to pull cash into the now from the future. And now the Federal Reserve and central banks around the world are deciding to charge more interest on the debt they're issuing. Where's the outcry? You let me know when you see it. Anyway, central banks are also deeply engaged in devaluing their respective currencies. They've been beating this to death lately. And this is a direct result of inflating the collective money supply. The more currency added to the overall money pool around the world, the more diluted it becomes. You know this. And the result is a collective loss of purchasing power. Do you see how this is unfolding right before your eyes? You read something like this and all of a sudden light bulbs go off in your head. Am I right? Moving forward, I'm almost done. We can expect to see currency devaluation accelerate and global debt to surge much higher. Don't take my word for it. Ask Janet Yellen, because she just told you that we got to borrow more. But we have all the cash on this planet that you can imagine to go fund wars and everything else. But we can't fund our own government. We can't fund pension plans or anything like that. Oh, absolutely not. People are starving to death in the street, but we got to go send hundreds of billions, soon to be in the trillions, to fund this war. Why? Because human life is worthless. Okay, it's worthless to these people. The expansion of war, disease processes, and everything else that comes along with it, that they can throw all the cash at that you can imagine, and then some. Everything else don't matter. Anyway, with that, the people themselves will be forced to struggle even harder to make ends meet. The result of that is exactly, pay attention, is exactly what central banks want. Higher debt burdens and dependency on the central bank debt-based system. Does this make sense to you? Does it make sense to you? I hope so. And I want you to have a copy. Again, if you are a subscriber to my newsletter, it's there for you. Right now it's in your inbox. And if you are not a subscriber to my newsletter, what the hell are you waiting for? Subscribe to it. There's like 70,000 people there now. That number is so low. It's sad. If I were like, I don't know, licking toilet bowls, eating Tide Pods, I don't know, maybe smearing excrement on my face, then I would get millions and millions and millions and millions of views. But you try to tell people a little bit of what's really going on, they don't give a damn. And this is why the population is in the state of affairs that it is. But that's not you. That is not you. You and I, we are light years ahead of the curve on this. It's just frankly unbelievable. And I promise to keep you, that's been my mission, to keep you there. And I am more committed than ever with my life. I do 3 of these video things per day now. 3. I must be out of my mind. But I love all of you. That's the truth from the heart. Please, if you thought this was important, I want to hear from you. Comment. Please give this video a thumbs up. And people, I'm counting on you to share this work. So few of you actually share my work, because I get like a statistical readout of who is sharing your work as part of the YouTube algorithms or whatever. It's such a small fraction of you. If we could get even, I don't know, 20% of you to share this work, we might be able to make a difference in the world, because without you, I'm nothing. I am nothing. All right, we are nothing. If we don't get this work out there and enlighten the people as to what's actually going on, it's just over. So please, please share all of this. Share my work on your social networks. Get it out there. I'm counting on you. I really am. All right, I'm out of here. I'll see you in the morning.